Everyone, and welcome to the LFC Transfer Room live stream with myself, Paul, Tom, and Dean. Thank you guys, everybody, so much for joining us on this Monday evening, where I am and wherever you are, maybe Monday afternoon or Monday night. Somewhat of a quiet day of news, all things considered. We have Owen Beck that's just gone back to Dundee, which has puzzled a lot of us as to why that recall even happened. But we also have some news about Virgil van Dijk and possibly some other older, more veteran players that future may be in doubt for them, considering how they would be wanting an awful lot of assurances when it comes to a new manager or a new sporting director and the direction of the club when they come in, which, to be perfectly honest, at this stage of his career, that's completely fair to want that. I wouldn't hold it against them at all. Also then have an awful lot of praise coming for Darwin Nunez and possibilities of some summer offers coming in for him that we may discuss as well. And with that lack of a sporting director and head coach for next season, will that give us some transfer headaches purely from the fact that there is no established direction for the club yet, and every day that goes by is work that could be done in sealing some summer deals that is not being done, unfortunately. But without further ado, I'll pass it over to my panel mates with the first couple of questions. And Dean, I'll throw the first one to yourself. Of Virgil van Dijk has come out and said that he'd be very curious to see the direction the club is going in, and Paul Joyce has come out and said that a lot of the older players that will be up for contract renewals, most notably would be Virgil van Dijk, Mohamed Salah, and even Trent Alexander-Arnold. They would want assurances about the club's direction, about who they have their eye on as managers, and who and how far it is along. And realistically, considering this is Liverpool 2.0, is there a fear that it could be dead in the water before it even starts?
Oh, there's always that little bit of fear. Let's be honest, the foundations of the club has been shaken for the first time. Well, this severely for the first time in probably 20 years, but certainly for the last decade since the new owners came in. We're in uncharted territory where we don't know where we're going to stand in a few months. Never mind the players, they're going to be even worse because they know about as much as we do. We just want a clear direction of where we're heading, and that won't happen until we at least have a sporting director in. So I understand why, especially the more established players like your Virgil van Dijk, your Robertsons, your Salahs, want to know what's going on. Klopp's brought an air of stability for the last 9 years. So we're just waiting and seeing and praying we get some good news in the next couple of months, arguably, just to see where we're heading. I've got confidence and faith that it will sort itself out, and I think the players have to a point. The body language of the players is still seem quite relaxed. We still have half a season left, so there's plenty of time. But I do understand the concerns, but hopefully they'll be put to rest in due course.
Yeah, it is worrying, Paul, when you look at it. It's a fear that the older, more veteran players obviously would want stability and they would want to compete for trophies. They're in the twilight of their career. They don't want to be part of a quote-unquote rebuild, and they're in a win-now mode, so to speak, similarly to an awful lot of teams that are in the Premier League at the moment. Have you a worry that we may stumble at this moment and lose some of them key components, the likes of Salah, the likes of Virgil van Dijk, that will be at the twilight of their career, and in worst case scenario, maybe even the likes of Trent Alexander-Arnold, just spitballing that?
I don't. Actually, I think it's much ado about nothing. First of all, Van Dijk will be, he's 32 now, going on 33. He'll be 34 when his contract is up.
Yeah.
Where is he going to go at 34 that's better than Liverpool? That's the first question. Secondly, the way these guys are treated at Anfield, both by the club, by the supporters, by all of us. The change in a manager, that should not mean that they should just leave. And I've hearing people talking about, the club need to come out and say something and and address it and to allay our fears. But what can the club do at this time?
Yeah.
They already said that they will be working behind the scenes. What do we want to hear now? Oh, we're going to target Alonso. We're going to target this guy. No. So I think it's much ado about nothing. As it relates to being a rebuild, we're not losing players. We're losing our manager, right? All of these young players will still be there. So I don't I am not concerned about Salah and those guys wanting to leave just because Klopp is leaving. Because the club will be there, and there will always be managers come and go, but Liverpool will still be there. So I think it's much ado about nothing, really.
Yeah. I mean, there is that aspect of it as well. Is it like maybe it's tactics from Virgil van Dijk, knowing that he could get a bit of a bump in salary or a new deal for a couple of years. If he's like, oh, I may have one foot out the door here if I don't like the direction we're going, and it may strong arm the club into making the correct decision going forward. Realistically, it may be that, as you said, Paul, it may be just absolutely nothing, and just we want to know which direction.
Let me just hop back in here for a sec. The only player that could possibly affect is Trent. As it relates to Salah and Van Dijk, the club will not be bullied, right? But Trent is kind of in a different league. First of all, he's much younger, and by being younger, I think he's way more valuable to the club. And plus, Trent has known no other club but Liverpool all his life. And the way the fans adore Trent, he's the one that I'm really hoping to see we tie down on another long-term contract. Give him a bump in salary and give him another 2-3 years on the back end of his contract. So, and knowing Trent the way we know him, I don't think he is in any mood to entertain another club anyway. So, but as to Van Dijk and Salah, I'm not really concerned about them wanting to leave.
Yeah, I think Trent is the only worry for a lot of people. Tom, are you in Dean's camp or Paul's camp in relation to level of worry with instability possibly coming over the next couple of months, or uncertainty even? And obviously would share the same sentiment as the players of we'd rather know sooner than later what the direction is going to be and who's going to be at the helm of the ship.
Yeah, I'm not really worried, to be honest. I agree that, where are they going to go? They're saying that, we need to see where the direction the club's going in, but it's still one of the biggest clubs in the world. It's the best league in the world. You're on great money. I don't see a better option really for these players to go to. I'm definitely not worried about Trent. I think Trent's a one-club man. I just don't see him leaving Liverpool at all. I think he's the future captain in the next couple of years when Virgil probably goes. I think the only one I'm maybe worried about is actually Salah. I think obviously he's probably a bit sort of undecided about whether to go to Saudi this year, and something like this might just tip his decision to go. But apart from Salah, I don't see anyone leaving just because Klopp's leaving, especially if you get Xabi Alonso and he's probably the best, young manager in the world. Surely you want to be a part of that and the respect he commands in the game as well. So yeah, overall, I'm not really worried. Like I said, maybe Salah is just the one that it could tip his decision, but in general, I'm not really worried about players leaving just because Klopp's leaving.
Yeah, it's one to think about, in my own opinion. I think it could leave license if the club was to go in a direction that some players didn't like. Or at the twilight of the career and they think they're going to be part of a rebuild possibly. They might just move on. Now, as Paul mentioned, I'm kind of leaning into his camp where it's kind of just it's a moot point. There's nothing necessarily to worry about in it. It's a time of uncertainty. I think we all just kind of want to rip the Band-Aid off and we'd rather know than not know. It's that sort of a way. But the club has known since November. The players only found out the other day, but the club has known since November, so they've obviously been doing the groundwork since then. So clearly they can. They've already probably identified targets and may even be contacting targets. And there's obviously all sorts of rumours that are swirling about the place at the moment. One thing that did come up, Dean, that I wanted to mention here is Helier's comment raised the question on how the search for a new manager for Barcelona may influence the search for our own replacement. Realistically, I don't think that will influence us at all, as the profile of manager that we will be looking for will be completely different to what Barcelona will be looking for. However, Barcelona love their shiny things. Alonso, for example, is the new shiny thing. Do you feel that us and Barcelona may be in competition for any of the free agent managers or even current managers that will be moving at the moment?
If this was Barcelona from about 4 or 5 years ago, when it was definitely 100% yes, with their financial issue is a poison chalice right now. You've got to be like a man at the club you've got to love Barcelona to want to get involved with that. I think if Xabi Alonso was a former Barcelona player, then maybe, but he was a former Real player. I think he very much wants to go to a former team by the sounds of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is going to be a different caliber of manager for Barcelona. I think they're going to end up with another Spanish talent from their own league, or maybe another academy manager. Like say, I revert back to the financial situation. It is dire. Even like when Xavi wants to get out, Arteta doesn't even want to get near it. It just makes no sense for any up and coming manager or even an established manager at the moment to get involved. Whereas Liverpool, on the other hand, they've got everything there for them to succeed. And both camps, whether there's an experienced manager or an up-and-coming manager, it's everything there you would want with world-class players, a good, decent financial situation, and like I say, a young and up-and-coming squad at the same time. Whereas Barca don't really have any of that. They've got a few decent players, but they're under real pressure at the moment, struggling in the league. And like I say, once again, dire off the pitch problems.
Yeah, as you mentioned, it is a poison chalice. It seems to be the same situation with a lot of clubs lately. Obviously, United being another one, Chelsea being another one, maybe to a lesser extent of a poison chalice in the financial side of things that maybe it hasn't come to fruition yet. But Barcelona is another one of them that just seems to have fallen foul of the messy contracts and the massive contracts that they've given previously. Paul, something that John mentions here with Ruben Almiron, who is the sporting manager over in Portugal currently at the moment, who has a release clause of 20 million euros in his contract. That's one option that we've been shown that there seems to be interest in. Roberto De Zerbi is another one. Is there someone out of the realistic side of things that you would see as a dream fit for Liverpool? We have our Alonsos, we have our De Zerbis, we have our Almirons as well. Is there somebody that you've thought of maybe outside of the box that might be a perfect fit for us? Obviously, we can't get Klopp back, unfortunately.
Right. I don't think we're going to go for a manager in the Portuguese league. Ten Hag proves that we should probably look elsewhere. The one guy that I like, even though it seems like I'm out on a limb, and this guy here is the Brentford manager, Thomas Frank. He is not a high-profile name, but he's not a young 40-year-old guy either. He has done quite a bit with a very small budget. He plays a kind of football similar to what we play, albeit that he doesn't have the talent that we have, right?
Yeah.
So hence the results would not be near our results. But so even though Xabi Alonso is my first choice, there is a risk that I can't ignore with Xabi Alonso.
Yeah.
He's relatively young. He is less than 2 years in his present job. He's doing very well, but he hasn't won anything yet. And there is more to managing a big club like Liverpool than just being, the X's and O's and being able to command a game plan and manage 11 players in game day. It's a lot more than that. So whilst I'm not against us giving the job to Xabi if he wants it, there is still an element of risk being so young. Yeah. But Thomas Frank is a guy that I have admired quite a bit, and I think he would be an excellent guy to give. He won't demand much, and as I said, he knows the Premier League. He plays similar style, and plus the guy has a personality. If you look at his interviews, how he handles the media, or he's talk about his players, he's the kind of guy that that I think would do well at Anfield.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
I think Thomas. No, go ahead, Paul. Sorry.
Yeah, we don't want a character that is cold. Somebody that is too emotional. We want that balanced person who can give the players a hug, just like Klopp, who can play good football, who understand what he's doing and can work with young players. We want somebody with, with that kind of a personality, and I just think he would be a decent fit.
No, I can't. To be honest, I can't disagree with you. He's done an awful lot with very little with Brentford, and obviously he has his talisman and Ivan Toney and whatnot. But he kind of fits what the FSG mold would require for a manager, someone that can do more with less, and seems to be able to, and obviously has a bit of a personality about them. Tom, something that somebody mentions here is that Stephen in the chat, Hogan is saying that the Liverpool Football Club will crush all the numbers for a new manager. Worries me that analytics will have too much say in it. Now, obviously, Paul mentioned the X's and O's of it, and we need somebody that knows the Premier League and knows the system. Similar to Paul's point, Alonso seems to fit that bill very well, and he said that Liverpool is, while being a Spanish man himself and spending so much time in Madrid and Bayern and Liverpool, Spain never felt like home to him. Liverpool felt like the second home. So having a player that was with us when we won that Champions League back in 2005 and knows the club and knows everything that way seems to be a bit of a character in himself, albeit a little bit more reserved than Paul's recommendation of Thomas Frank. He kind of ticks a lot of the boxes in the number crunching side of it, in knowing the club inside and out, the history, loving the city, knowing what this means to the local populace. Is there somebody other than Alonso that may tick as many boxes as him that we wouldn't necessarily have heard about or spoken about? Paul has mentioned Thomas Frank. He's not somebody that is high up on most lists, but who do you think?
Yeah, I'm not big on Thomas Frank personally. I just think the jump from Brentford to Liverpool is just enormous. I'm just concerned that he wouldn't be able to. I just feel like he's at home at Brentford, really. I mean, I know everyone's saying it, but I do just think Xabi is the obvious candidate. I know the risk is there that he's not been a manager for long, and how would it feel to be like a real big club? But I think that is negated a little bit by the fact that he's played for massive clubs. He's played for us. He's also played for Real Madrid. He played for Bayern Munich. So although it's obviously different being a manager, he knows what it's like to be inside the big club. He knows what the pressure is like. So I feel like for me that negates the whole his experience and stuff, because he knows what it's like to be inside a big club and the demands that a big club has on players and managers. Obviously plays excellent football, a legend of the club. So a really important thing as well, he commands respect straight away when he walks through that door. I think Thomas Frank, I don't know if he really does, but Xabi Alonso, you can't not respect Xabi Alonso just because the player and the manager he's proven to be. So yeah, that's for me. I think he ticks nearly every box. I'd be stunned if it wasn't him, to be honest. I think my second choice would probably be Nagelsmann or Tuchel, but even then I'm not keen. But just because they have experience of being in a big club, and obviously Tuchel's a proven winner. So for me, that's what I would look for if it's not Alonso, like just someone who knows in a big club and knows how to win. But yeah, for me, Alonso ticks nearly every box, and I'd be gutted if it wasn't him, to be honest.
Yeah, and I see the way I look at Alonso is the way I'd look at an up and coming player that has the ability and the ceiling and the potential to become a world class player or manager in this sense. And it feels that if we didn't go for him now, when we have the opportunity, he won't be available in a year or 2 years' time when he's won something. As you mentioned, Paul, he hasn't necessarily proved anything yet, but that would be my worry, that he may get snapped by a Real Madrid, or when Ancelotti has 2 years left in his deal, he could very easily just turn around and finish after this season if he wanted to. And all of a sudden Alonso lands there. Or Bayern Munich could obviously fire Thomas Tuchel as well, and he could move there because he seems to have a clause in his contract or a gentleman's agreement to move to a previous club that he played for. That would be my only worry, that we'd miss out on the potential of it. I'd rather lose a year of performance on the risk of having a world-class manager and give him the time to use it, and the fact that he knows the club and everything. Dean, a comment that was mentioned here, just in Alonso's play style, which is something that seems to come up a lot, because he plays a 3-5-2-1 or something to that degree with Bayer Leverkusen at the moment. So never give up mentions here. He uses creators over wingers. So where would Salah play if he stays, and Diaz? Now, the way I would see us lining up would be a back three of, now this is with current players, no new signings, no nothing. We can't assume that he may bring Hincapie or possibly Frimpong with him or something like that. But for argument's sake, the lineup that I would depict would be a back three of Kwanzaa, Virgil van Dijk, and Konate in that order, left to right, and then the midfield five of Robertson on the left, McAllister left centre midfielder, Endo, Szoboszlai, and then Trent as a right wing, right midfielder, so to speak, and then the front three, for lack of a better term, of Darwin on one wing, Salah up the middle, and Diaz on the other wing. That would be the way that I depict it and make sort of Salah a bit of a poacher.
That's 12 players. That's 12 players, Stephen.
12.
3-5-3, that means.
Yeah.
Say nothing. It's just fine. We won't play a keeper. It'll be fine. They didn't say Allison, so technically still 11. You guys all assumed. No, I've gotten my maths wrong. I'm working on 4 hours sleep because I was up watching 49ers last night. But we'll say nothing there. I'd have a front two then to correct myself of Salah and Nunez and working off each other on either wing, which I think would be perfect because we've seen how well Nunez can work off of a wing or a less than central role. Do you see him sticking to the same 3-5-2, or do you see him moving to adapt to the play style that we have? I think he has the capability of doing so.
I think he'd adapt to similar to what the players are used to, especially in that first season if he came in. We thought this, I know it's slightly different, but when Jürgen came in, we were adamant we were going to be playing 4-2-3-1 all the time. And he did kind of play that for the first 6 months, but that was very much what we had available. Could we play that way? We quickly changed to a 4-3-3, which we didn't think would happen. It could go either way. It could end up blending both styles in. We don't know, but I could definitely see that first season if he does come in. Well, let's see what you can do in the way that you would normally would play, because it's going to be whoever comes in will be a season of transition. Of course, it will be. I thought this season was going to be the season of transition. Next season definitely will be a season of transition. But it's certainly interesting to see what could happen if he does play that 3-4-3, 3-5-2 formation. It will adapt the players around it. These players are very versatile. We've seen that already. Who would have thought Salah would be one of our most creative players rather than a goal scorer? You know what I mean? So it'll be very interesting to see.
Yeah, there's a lot of shouts for Roberto De Zerbi. I'll throw this question out to everybody in the group and everybody in the chat as well, and this is a hypothetical. So the three main guys that we're currently being linked with would be, as Paul's mentioned, Thomas Frank. We obviously have Xabi Alonso with Bayer Leverkusen, and we also have Roberto De Zerbi with Brighton at the moment. Now, here's the hypothetical. Paul, I'll throw it to you first since you mentioned Thomas Frank. You get to sign him and all of his coaching and scouting staff and all of the information they have. Knowing what Brighton have done and can do with their scouting department and the information that they have, and knowing what Alonso has done with a net spend of 13 million euro, and obviously with what Thomas Frank has done with a very limited budget as well. If you were to get the coach and the coaching staff plus scouting staff, would that tip the scales in any way, shape, or form? Because it'd tip it for Brighton for me to get De Zerbi and his scouting staff.
And that's for sure. De Zerbi is a good shout. The football that we have seen him played over the last year or so has been very refreshing. Is quite attacking. Sometimes I would say overly attacking, even more attacking than he needed to be at times. But on the flip side, when you look at this, if you're going to take the entire coaching staff, Brighton is one of those clubs that's perfect for their scouting, perfect for a selling club. We're not a selling club. They are the club that buy nobody more than 25, 30 million. And they will buy a bunch of youngsters and kind of sift through the mud to see the 1 or 2 gems that they find. Then they play him, then sell him on for big profit. That I don't think is sustainable for a club that wants to win multiple trophies every year.
Yeah.
So that's why the coach, yes, but in terms of the entire recruiting staff, probably not, because as I said, we're a big club that we want to win every year. We're not that kind of a selling club. I am a little bit worried about De Zerbi again because it's
He's not
nice
done
to be
anything.
attacking. It's nice to be
Yeah.
attacking, but sometimes you can be overly attacking, you know.
Yeah.
And if he was our manager, I'm pretty sure we would have conceded quite a few more goals than we have right now. Maybe we would have scored more. Maybe we'd be in the same position. Who knows? But he's a little bit too enterprising for my liking. On the other hand, Tuchel is the exact opposite. I don't like him. He's too defensive and negative for me. And he is a three at the back regardless. Now, as it relates to Zabi, somebody was saying that he plays a 3-5-2 or whatever it is. Good managers are not rigid managers. Good managers don't have a style, and this is my style. Top managers, they adapt based on the league, based on their opponents, but most importantly, based on the talents of the players that they have. So I think that if he should just drop into Liverpool with our present setup, I would see him continue with the 4-3-3. If Salah leaves, I think we would be best suited for a 4-2-3-1 because we're not going to find a Salah replacement on that right wing in terms of the amount of goals and all of that kind of stuff. So I am not too eager to go with De Zerbi, but again, it could possibly work.
Yeah. No, I agree. He could work. He might not work. As you said, it seems to be a selling club. But as people have pointed out, that kind of suits us. Instead of us going out and spending 80 million on the guy that then becomes proven, it would nearly be easier to cut out the middleman and find those gems and sift through the mud. But as Evan Ferguson did say when he had trials for us when he was younger, Liverpool wouldn't have been able to give him the opportunity while competing for all of the trophies and everything. So it's kind of a catch-22, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. Tom, I'll throw this question to you from Jim Hughes. Is, would the club not interview Pep Linders? Now, my own opinion on it would be I don't think he wants to immediately jump into Klopp's shoes, having no head coaching experience outside of an assistant coach. He'd rather build his own legacy rather than step into the shoes of his boss, for lack of a better term. Do you think he'd be a good fit, considering he basically is Klopp light and he knows the players and knows how they operate?
There's certainly benefits to it. Like, obviously, he knows the players inside out. He knows how we've worked for the last 8 years. Mm-hmm. So obviously that gives some huge benefits. But yeah, the lack of coaching experience is obviously a massive worry. It's completely different. It's a completely different role being number two to an actual manager.
Yeah,
you know, facing the press every few days, the media, just everything that comes with it. You're the figurehead of the club, whereas now he's just kind of in the background. So it's a completely different role altogether. So he wouldn't be in my kind of shortlist. In terms of De Zerbi, I'd probably more in favour than most people, to be fair. I think the football he's got Brighton playing is like sensational, to be honest. Like, I think they're the best footballing team in the Premier League in terms of on the eye, and to be able to do that with the players he's got at hand is, you know, it's very, very impressive. And I think I like his personality as well. I think he's got a good character about him. His comment about the referees kind of sold it to me, to be fair. So I wouldn't mind De Zerbi, to be fair. I think he obviously got the Premier League experience as well. But
yeah.
I saw his quote about the fact that he manages to entertain and not win trophies, so that kind of ruined it for me a little bit. With it on,
I think it was yourself that mentioned in the chat that his quote was like he coaches football to entertain and not to win, and I'm kind of like, that's like fuck me, like if you want to be anyway competitive at all or even get a big job at a big club, that's definitely the wrong thing to be saying.
Yeah, I think that quote alone kind of probably puts him off the shortlist, to be fair, doesn't it? But
yeah,
like it does have a lot of benefits to him. But yeah, I probably wouldn't go for him still.
Yeah, no, he has a character about him, and we mentioned this on the stream yesterday, myself, Rigo, Chad, and Colin, that we all got a little bit emotional about it. But we don't need Klopp 2.0, Dean. We just need somebody to come in and be their authentic selves, which is what Klopp did initially. It's what endeared him to the populace of Liverpool, which is a very down-to-earth, doesn't take themselves all too seriously kind of population and city, similarly to an awful lot of places around the world. But it's a city that doesn't take itself too seriously, knows what it is, and appreciates genuine integrity and sincerity. And Klopp had that in droves. And if somebody comes in and tries to be something that they're not, it's something that will be sniffed out very, very, very quickly. So we don't need a Klopp 2.0. We need somebody that comes in and just bees their own character. De Zerbi seemingly has that sort of a character about him, as Paul mentioned. Thomas Frank does as well. Xabi Alonso seems to be a little bit more of a reserved character. However, I think he knows the city well enough and will be respected enough in the city to skate by on a lesser outspoken personality. Is there somebody that you think could come in and be a Klopp 2.0? Pep Linders obviously is one that was mentioned too. Is there anybody that could possibly come in and even replicate him, or do we need to move on from Klopp ball and how heavy metal football and everything like that and in the next season going forward in that transition year that you mentioned?
I don't think we need to move on from it. It's just what made it successful, but the new guys got to come in, just take parts of that and then just make it into his own philosophy. I think that'll be the best way of going about it. The problem we have is there's so few limited options that we've got out there who they're either up and coming managers as we've gone through, or the best ones are probably too old now. We wouldn't be interested in personally if you blank slate, every manager was available. Right now, I would just give me Ancelotti for 2 years if you offered me, because you can do anything with anybody. A wild card for me, even though it won't happen because they won't let him go. Give me Ange, give me Big Ange from Spurs. Just
really,
I think that goes out. Yeah, genuinely. I know,
yeah,
I would just because his mannerisms, the way he's adopted to that team so quickly, and the amount of time he's made a big impact. I know he's not the best, but I'm just going off literally options here. Because you could count on one hand how many managers out there that are dead suited to Liverpool. You could confidently say, yeah, he'd suit us. If they either got limited experience, they're in a minor league, or they're just not suitable. So we've got ones from Portugal, that's a risk. We've got ones from the Netherlands, they're a risk. So there's the Arne Slot or something place where he does Feyenoord. People like him, but he's in the Dutch league. There's another one in Germany, Stuttgart's manager. I don't know his name. He's very well liked, but mid-table German side. Is it any better than Brentford? You know what I mean? This is the problem we've got. All the top teams have managers who have been around a bit, other than Tuchel, who just don't like him. So Xabi Alonso seems to be the best shout. It ticks all the boxes. It just makes sense. Off the pitch and on the pitch. And we always go on about Klopp's carries. We'll never replicate that. He's a unique human being. He's a one-of-a-kind person. But in terms of love for the club, love for the city, and he immediately has credit in the bank, and as I said this on Saturday, it just makes the most sense. It makes too much sense not to have at least an approach. Never mind sign anymore.
Yeah. Am I back? I think I'm gone again. My internet's all over the shop. There's storms hitting Ireland at the moment that have me fucked over.
You're frozen. While I thought it yourself, Stephen, I'm not sure I agree with Dean and Big Ange. I don't think Liverpool can survive in the Premier League playing with that high line, with the centre backs at the halfway line. I don't know. De Zerbi, I would prefer De Zerbi over Big Ange. Plus, Big Ange has just been in the Premier League for just a few months. I don't know. I think he's overrated, to be fair. I think he's really overrated, and he has won a few games. Yes, his team has been a little bit lucky, but I just think he's overrated.
I think he's played some really good football, hasn't he? Like, I mean, he's only 6-7 points off the top with Tottenham Hotspur, and he was serial bottlers, and he's obviously missed Van der Ven and Maddison for a large period of time. So if they were in the team, you don't know where they could be. They were top for till about November, weren't they? Till the injuries. hit. Obviously, he's a Liverpool
Yeah.
fan as well,
Well,
which obviously
that
helps.
is,
He's been at Celtic. I know it's Scotland, but he's
Mhm.
managed that pressure and expectation. So, and he plays good stuff, like I said. So he does tick a lot of boxes, to be fair. But it's going to be hard to get him out of Tottenham. That's the only problem.
Oh yeah,
But I'm sure he'd come
definitely.
if he got the offer. He'd come. I think.
It's a big difference. It's a big difference, when you are managing your first year when nobody expected you to be successful. Nobody expected much. Everybody believe, you're going to be a mid-table team, so there's no pressure. You lose your best player in Harry Kane, so your team is notable for being bottlers. You've never won anything, so there's no pressure. To come to Liverpool, where we expect you to win every game, you're expected to win trophies, to compete with Man City and whoever. With high-profile players, nothing you couldn't do it, but it's not a given that you'll be successful. But it's so hard. Basically, no matter who you choose, there will always be a risk. So I guess we just have to find somebody who we think can do the job and just give them a shot. That's all we can do because we have quality players. So any manager that's decent should be able to get some good results for what we have. It's not like Klopp is leaving and the team and the squad is terrible. We have a lot of old players. We are one of the youngest team, I would think, in the Premier League. And if you take out Van Dijk and Salah, who is over 30, I'm going to say the average age is what, 25 or lower? So
Probably.
Yeah, I think this job here is one of the best job available in football for a long, long time for the right manager. I don't know what you guys think. Yeah.
No, I fully agree on that. Well, the base is there for anybody to come in and just do a good job at the end of the day. It's all a manager just asks for: a stable base, ambition, and the players to work with. And it's all there ready to go. It's like, say, it's just availability of manager. That's all we have a problem with. But there is, like, say, a perfect candidate there waiting to be snapped up. It's just whether we actually do go for him.
So let's let our mind wander for a little bit here. Let's assume that Man City get the book thrown at them and they're relegated.
Yeah.
And Pep say, you know what? I'm not going to the second division with you guys, but I want to continue in the Premier League. Would you take him?
No. No,
Why
don't like
not?
him. Don't like him.
It's a hard one, though, isn't it?
He's considered the best in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wishes he had Liverpool's fan base. He's openly admitted he doesn't like the Man City fan base. He always moans constantly about the atmosphere. I know there's been questions raised over our own, but his is every week. He's always demanding more from Man City supporters. They barely fill the stadium. That team, as much as some of them I don't really like as people, that team warrants a world-class fan base because they are arguably the best team in the world at the moment, if we're being brutally honest. But perhaps used to having, Bayern Munich fan base, Barcelona fan base, two of the biggest clubs in the world, and you go to Man City where, like I said, you can't even fill the stadium. You're going to notice it, aren't you? So he would kill to have the opportunity to manage somewhere like Liverpool and whatnot, but he doesn't have the money available. That's what would put him off. That's the problem. But he would have a world-class team ready to go. So it depends how you look at it, to be honest.
Right.
He's got no experience. He's always been at the richest club in his league, hasn't he? So I don't know how he'd find that, not with his blank checkbook. I don't think he'd like the sell to buy policy, would he?
Imagine meeting his car at FSG. It's just like, oh, can I have this £50 million plate? Yeah, but you've got to sell these two lads first, or you've got to use that lad instead. Oh, we signed Endo for you. It's like, oh, wait, what?
I do like the answer though. Actually, I think he does. He ticks nearly every box. To be fair to him, even like
personality.
Yeah. Like I said, even though it's Celtic, like he's got the experience of the demand to win, hasn't he? Even though it's a minor league, he's still faced that pressure and expectation of a massive club that has to win. So he knows what that feels like. So you compare that to like the Zerbi or Frank, with the small mid-table clubs, like at least Ange has that experience of, you know, you have to win, and not anything else is not good enough. So I think that stands him in good stead.
Well, as Zabi is really the obvious choice, and we hope we get him. But again, I go back to the risk because we all know that Steve Gerrard won't get the job, and he's not qualified right now. But if what is happening now was happening 2-3 years ago when Gerrard was at was in Scotland, when he was at Rangers, everybody would be saying, "Let's get Stevie G," you know, because he was doing so well over there. So it's just hard. Another guy that is doing very well on a shoestring budget in the Premier League is Gary O'Neill at Wolves, and I think he's a former Liverpool youth coach, if I'm not mistaken. It might be a step too much for him right now, but he seems to be a really, really good coach. I don't know what you guys think about him.
I do like him. He was thrown in at the deep end once at Wolves. It's literally like the main, was it Lopetegui? He just left, said the players weren't good enough. I've got no money. I'm out. I've had enough of you. And he's just been given no preseason, no money. And he's come in and, if anything, they've got better. It's just quite hilarious, really. You know, they've lost the best players as well with Ruben Neves, Coutinho, and Traore. And they've improved as a team, and they're actually, it's a hard place to go. Man City lost there. We had a tough time. We might have 3 points, for the level he's at, he's doing a good job. I think it would be a stretch to have him come to a top club straight away. Give it a couple more years, you never know. But just in regards to what you're saying about Stevie, when he was in Scotland, he obviously did a good job. Just to compare him to Ange, the differences with Ange, he won that league hands down, won the treble, playing a unique style of football, whereas Gerrard, granted, did a good job there, won the league. He came to Villa, and it just all fell apart after that half a season. To be fair, I didn't feel like he got backed. And my argument was he wasn't backed enough because his main players got injured that he signed. But then Unai Emery just came in, just took over, and well, we've seen what's happening already. You know, he's been class. So I think that is the difference. Gerrard hasn't been able to carry it over. Oh, we've got Stephen back. We're alive.
Yeah. Talk to me. This fucking Wi-Fi. Excuse my French language.
Yeah.
Fuck me. Apologies. I was watching on YouTube. Thank you guys so much for keeping it going for me. Fair play to you. You'll have me out of a job soon. I appreciate it. Thank you. Please continue with the conversation you were having. I don't want to interrupt you because clearly it's very engaging.
Because you see, it's always difficult, to have a club legend as a player take over as a coach and be successful. There aren't a lot of examples of top quality, top class, world class players who went on to coach their former team and be successful. The obvious one is Frank Lampard. He was ordained to be the Chelsea manager. Maybe got the job a little bit too early, but that was a masterclass in disaster. So that is my worry with Xabi Alonso. When everything is pointing, when it's too obvious, something might just go wrong. I'm just not 100% sure. That's my worry.
Yeah.
But I think what someone mentioned about the number crunches earlier, these will be running the numbers. It won't be just base it off, sentiments. It won't be just, because he was a former player, let's get him in. They will go through the numbers. Will their style suit the players that we have? Will their actual management styles suit the club? I think that's what they will run, and that's what they will look at, and that's when, if they decide to interview, they will establish. That's the positive for me. It won't be just a case of, like, say, oh yeah, you used to be here. You know your way. You know the map of the place. Go on, let's have a go. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I see a lot of shouts in the chat for Roy Hodgson to come back, which I am 110% behind. I would love to see that because I'd love to see that group chat that we have a fucking meltdown. But it is. We could talk for hours and hours and hours about who could be the manager and who should be the manager realistically, and there's plenty of viable candidates. We've Xabi Alonso, who is the storybook one, as you mentioned, Paul. It has the writing on the wall that it has every feeling it could be an absolute disaster or it could be an absolute success. I think it's worth the risk, in my own opinion. I know you're a little bit more risk averse than I would be in that, and you think the likes of somebody that's a little bit more established in the Premier League, your Thomas Frank, your De Zerbi, that kind of a thing would possibly be more of a better shout, purely because you've seen what they've done. And Klopp, when he was brought over to us, had already won the Bundesliga a couple of times and won trophies and everything. So it wasn't like we were hiring an unknown, so to speak. But I think what Xabi Alonso has done in the past 24 months with Leverkusen, taking them from scraping the bottom of the table to undefeated in all competitions so far, and not having lost a game in Europe, albeit in the Europa League, I understand that, but that's still an impressive feat in a second year as a manager, and clearly instilling a style of football and a philosophy at a club that other managers at big clubs as well. And Leverkusen is a big enough club when you think about it, especially in terms of the German league. It would have been third or fourth in size, realistically. Just it was on a bad run of form. But as you mentioned, Paul, people from lesser leagues, and we say lesser leagues like the Portuguese league or the Eredivisie in Holland, when Erik ten Hag came over from Ajax, he's had a similar, if not longer time with United than Alonso has had with Leverkusen, and he's done fuck all. So you can have that level of a disaster as well, which is very easily able to happen. But it's a funny one. I think, as Tom mentioned, the club is going to do all of their number crunching and come up with the best candidate. None of us could have ever predicted what Klopp would have done when he was first brought in. None of us could have predicted that. And I suppose maybe we've been spoilt the past near 9 years with him. But it's very interesting times ahead to be Liverpool fans currently at the moment. Before we move off the managerial talk, I just want to ask everybody to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. We've nearly 50 people in here watching at the moment. Help us reach our 10k goal of 10,000 subscriptions, and make sure you have your notifications on for all future streams and videos. Thank you guys so much as well for waiting about while I dealt with my technical difficulties. I will be on the phone to my internet provider tomorrow morning, fucking them off down the phone for how poor this is. I tested the speed and it was like 2 megabits a second. I'm going to test it now on my mobile hotspot because that's what I had to change to, and I'll tell you what the speed is now. Speed's already up to 30-40 megabits a second, like, and it's a mobile hotspot. Fuck me, like. Virgin Media, don't bother using them. They're absolutely useless. Take that from me. But somebody that's been getting an awful lot of praise rather than Virgin Media is our own little ball of chaos, which is Darwin Nunez, who has currently, as it stands at the moment, 21 goal contributions in all competitions for club, has more non-penalty goals than Haaland in all competitions, including country, and is currently on pace to have a 30 to 35, between a 30 and 40 goal contribution season. Not bad considering everyone calls him a flop. He seems to be Liverpool seems to be very happy with his development at the moment. I can't see why they wouldn't be. The hypothetical that comes in, if a new manager comes in and wants to move in a different direction, do we think Nunez is part of it? We mentioned earlier about certain players maybe leaving, but Nunez seems to be part of the new core of Liverpool 2.0 that keeps coming through. Dean, I'll throw it to yourself first. If Nunez was to go, I don't think he will personally. I think he's too important to us and the rebuild at the moment. But if he was to go, is there a realistic price? Because you can't just turn around and say $1 billion. Is there a realistic price that would tempt you into being okay with letting him go? Or have you been locked in and hooked on his potential now, seeing how he's performed the last couple of games?
I've always had faith with him, even after last season. I've always believed there was a player there. This is the problem. There isn't many number 9s out there. It's a rare commodity at the moment, a goal scoring number 9 who can also play anywhere across the front three. Let me add to that as well. He's a unique, in all honesty. Can you find another lad out there who can do what he does? Cause absolute chaos. And even we don't know what he's going to do. Jürgen Klopp doesn't even know what he's going to do next.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, and how old is he? 22, 23?
23.
23.
24
so he's got
this year.
24 this year. So he's got 9.5 years at the top, realistically. He's talking in the hundreds, 150, something like that. Just going on age and the lack of availability of number 9s out there. And the fact, like I say, a unique profile that he is, you're demanding that 100-odd million easily. I think the only other player out there that's remotely, in terms of numbers and ability, is Haaland. In all honesty, I know obviously got Harry Kane, but obviously he's 30s now, so he wouldn't demand the same level of money anymore. So yeah, I'd put my foot down and be like, if someone came in for it, we go, get your checkbook out. It's going to be a big number. Simple as that. So 150 million plus, as daft as it sounds, it is what it is at the moment.
Tom, would you be in a similar agreement, or is he similar to Trent in that he is untouchable in this Liverpool 2.0 rebuild?
I do agree. He's such a unique player. I don't think he's untouchable just because of the way he is. Like, if you go for like an Alonso, like a very technical base manager, Nunez just isn't that. So if you go, like I said, if you go for like that possession, someone who's really emphasising the technical ability of the players, then Nunez isn't your man, is he? He gets in behind, he causes chaos, as we like to say. He's not someone who's great at the link-up play and stuff like he's improved, but that's not his game really. So I wouldn't say he's untouchable. I'd love to keep him just because I think he's brilliant, and you'd hate to face him. I think that's his biggest compliment. I can't ever see him like reaching world-class levels. I think this thing about when it clicks. I think Carragher made the point the other week that he thinks that's just what Nunez is. I think I do agree. I think this is just what he is. He's 25 this summer, I think. So he's not like 19. I think, and a kid that's got a lot to develop. He's coming towards his prime years. I think this is just what Nunez is. So in terms of like the future and a new manager, I don't think he's untouchable. But I would like a high fee for him, and I would like to keep him. But it just all depends on the new manager is and what they want, really.
I think you do him a little bit of a disservice in his technical ability. Yes, he may not have the best first touch, but if you give him the ball and allow him to run, I feel he has the technical ability to get past anybody, especially coming in from the wing. And I think we've seen that an awful lot. And if he does, and as we've always said, if he doesn't have to think about it or overthink it, he's the best striker in the world, in my opinion. That finish against Norwich with the first goal, when it was brought, when Jota got the assist, I can't remember, they just slotted it home into the bottom corner. It was beautiful. It's and then you look at the two Newcastle finishes, and he'll frustrate you, sure, but again, technical ability can be taught, whereas everything else that he has in the instinct, I don't think can be. I completely appreciate where you're coming from, though, at the same time, Tom, that like if Alonso wanted somebody more of a Firmino ilk, he could put Cody Gakpo there in the middle, but then that leaves Darwin Nunez open to play on either wing, and he does devastatingly bad damage from those wings, more so than from the middle. Paul, is there a number yourself that you would let him go for, or would you be of a similar opinion to Dean, saying he's probably untouchable, but if you came in with 150 plus million pounds, obviously we'd be considering it at that point?
He's not for sale, but there's no player that's untouchable. Everything depends on the price. So it's definitely not for sale. So that would mean for him to go, it would have to be a phenomenal offer. Somewhere north of 120, 130, I would say. Because for you to accept an offer, you have to be able to use that money to replace him with somebody better.
Yeah.
Either somebody better or somebody that's equally as good for less money. Or else it's pointless. Yeah. And there's not much number 9 out there that I would rather have over Nunez. But if you look at a guy like Victor Osimhen, he's an excellent finisher. But I'm not sure if you put him in this Liverpool setup, you'll have more goal contributions than Darwin. And to me, goal contribution is more important than just looking at just mere goals, right?
Yeah, I'd be of a similar opinion.
Right. So I don't know. If you look at there's a guy that I really like that plays for Newcastle. That Swiss guy.
Isak.
Isak, yeah.
Is he Swedish or is he Swiss?
Swedish.
One of them. I think
he's Swedish. He's one of them.
Okay, right. One of them. No, he is a clinical finisher in the box, right? But I would not have him over Darwin because that's all he does, right? So I don't know. I think most of the people, or most of the fans who criticize Darwin on Twitter all over the place, if you ask them, would you have Darwin in their team? I'm gonna bet that most of them would gladly have him.
Oh yeah.
So no, I like the guy, and I think he is in our best 11. Whether you want to put him down the middle or on the flank, I think he's in our best 11. Because to be fair, have we really missed Salah for those last few games? I don't think we have. I don't think we have, you know. And if we can have a guy like Salah away from the team for a couple of games and we really don't miss him, that says a lot. So he's not for sale, but I guess 150, we could probably listen.
Yeah, it's funny because as you mentioned, Paul, goals is one thing, but I don't. If Darwin Nunez scored 25 goals or if he assisted 25 goals, either way, it's 25 goals.
Right.
However they come is not of any consequence. And I said this when earlier on in the season, and I was laughed at when the comparisons to Haaland came up. Darwin Nunez is a better football player than Haaland, but Haaland is a better goal scorer, if that makes sense, the way that I look at it. I've never seen somebody that's so technically inept score so many goals. And people want to talk about being technical. Like Haaland is a phenomenal goal poacher. Haaland is Diogo Jota if he was 6'5" tall and played in Denmark or Norway, wherever he's from. He's Nordish, so it's a Nordic, should I say. So that's my opinion on Haaland. I think he's a great goal scorer, but he's not a great footballer, whereas Darwin presses, passes, assists, comes back, tracks back, helps in the midfield. I've seen him helping at left back. I've seen him helping at right back. He does, and he will run and run and run and run and run and never moans. And that is one thing that a number 9 is like gold dust for that. Purely because number 9 seem to be a bit of divas, that they want to be the center of attention. They're the main man. They need to always be getting the ball, always be scoring. Darwin will make one run, get the pass, mess it up, but then keep getting the pass over and over again. And I mentioned it on stream the other day, Paul. You'll appreciate this as well, being a Packers fan. He reminds me of Brett Favre. He'll throw 6 interceptions, but he'll keep throwing. And Darwin Nunez will hit the post 3 or 4 times, but he'll keep shooting. And that's probably his most positive attribute, is his head doesn't drop. He just continues to go and go and go and go and go. And eventually that will click. You throw enough shit at a wall, some of it's going to stick. It's the best way to look at it. It's an interesting one. Like we've talked about managerial changes, how the style of football may change. Realistically, none of us have a clue what's going to happen. The club obviously plays their cards very close to their chest. It's going to be probably April before somebody's announced, and I have a feeling that any groundwork done on signings will also be told, look, we have this particular person in mind, or they may not be telling them in as many words, but I'd imagine the club will know by April who they have, and their sporting director and everything will be done. That's who they're getting first, the sporting director, then the manager. I think they already have the sporting director wrapped up and they're just waiting to announce it. And I think they have the coach basically on the last limbs of it. There's an awful lot of hush-hush about managers not speaking on it. Maybe they just don't want to speak on it, but considering what Xabi Alonso has said, it leads me to believe that it's probably going to be him, and I'm not going to be too sad about that. I think it'll be good. But with that being said, we're coming up on the hour mark. Apologies for the technical difficulties. Thank you to Paul, Tom, and Dean for taking over for me while I tried to get out of the dark ages here in Ireland and use some Wi-Fi. But thank you guys so much for joining us all. I hope everybody has a wonderful Monday evening or afternoon or night, wherever you may be. Make sure to like and subscribe. Help us reach our 10K subscribers goal, and make sure you have your notification bell on for all future streams and videos. Thank you guys so much again. I know I've said it plenty of times, but it really does help us grow this channel when you do all of that stuff for us, and we really, really do appreciate it. Thank you so much, and I hope everybody has a wonderful evening, and we'll see you tomorrow at 7:30 for our pre-game stream before our game against Chelsea on Wednesday. Good night, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.